I want more small business owners to know what it's really like to run a small business, not the social media version of it. There are so many things that happen to you as a small business owner and that we don't see that bit. We're fed this glossy, filtered Instagram version of everyone's a millionaire within the first 6 months and everybody's
of course.
hiring and scaling and all of this. I don't want to have people coming into business who aren't prepared for the reality of how bloody hard it's going to be.
What if you didn't jump into this world of content and teaching?
Welcome to the podcast, where we introduce you to incredible humans who share their journeys with the mission to inspire you to harness your own inner tenacity to drive your life and career forward. And now, your host, Adam Posner.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. We're bringing the best and the brightest from the world of business, marketing, and personal growth to help you harness your inner tenacity and drive your career forward. Today, my guest on the podcast is Leah Turner. You might know her from her first podcast appearance, episode 108 from late 2020. Right, we're in March now. Geez, almost. She's a LinkedIn powerhouse who skyrocketed to prominence in 2019, transforming her small transcription business with her signature blend of humor, relatability, and uplifting content. In just a few years, she's amassed a remarkable almost 175,000 followers. Wow. And trained countless professionals leveraging LinkedIn effectively. As the founder of the Holt Community, a global membership of over 580 business owners, Leah empowers entrepreneurs with expert-level masterclass and resources to help them thrive. We have a lot to get into. We're going to talk about her background. She's going to reintroduce herself. She's also a solo parent and vibrant content creator, and she continues to inspire business owners around the world with her authentic, actionable insights. I feel like that's my line, authentic, actionable insights. Most importantly, she's a friend, someone I deeply admire and respect, as I have had a front row seat to her journey for the past 6 years. We have a lot to get into. Leah Turner, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you so much. It feels like such a circular moment. You were the first podcast I ever was on. I think.
I'm not really many people's firsts,
sure.
but hopefully not
I
their.
think it
Hopefully
was.
not
I
their
think
last.
you were the first LinkedIn Live
Yeah.
or the first podcast. It was one or the other the first that I did. So yeah, 5 years on.
It's
How much has
incredible. Like
changed?
we look back and I remember distinctly a couple of our first conversations, and we connect on LinkedIn, and then we connected on Messenger, and that's really where we did a lot of our chat. And we were both growing at the same time. We were both trying to figure this shit out. Figure it out. We were both trying to figure out not just LinkedIn, but we were both figuring out our path as entrepreneurs, as business owners,
I
and
still
we
am.
come every single day. Isn't it funny when people are like, I've been a solopreneur for 4 months. Here's what I've learned. I'm like, 4 months? What the fuck are you talking about? Try doing it for 8 years. Like, what are you talking about? But it's nice that you share your insights. We appreciate that. But keep going. And connected because we had that commonality of trying to figure this shit out together, trying to understand what we need to do, testing, learning how to make things happen, making mistakes along the way. And it's lonely as an entrepreneur, a solopreneur. And you need to find friends, and you need to find people that you could just have a sounding board. And for me, that was you, and hopefully vice versa.
I think at that point I was like, when I first started using LinkedIn and we first became connected, I had no idea what the next 5 years held for me. I was still typing, doing my transcription business, making almost no money and just scraping by with my bills. And I sort of ended up getting this following of people and not really sure what to do with it and a bit baffled by the attention. And the last 5 years have been an absolute roller coaster, massive lessons, some not great experiences, but far more really incredible experiences. And I don't think I even really recognize that person that I was 5 years ago now, because I feel the core of me is still the same
Right.
values, the same fears, the same doubts. But I feel like I've grown up in front of an audience, which is
you have, and you're vulnerable and open and sharing your journey as a solo parent and watching your little man grow up into this epic footballer that he's going to be, and that's he will be put out to the universe.
Yeah, I'm putting it out there.
I'm sure you've had this thought. Looking at where technology is right now, if your business would be, your transcription business would be obsolete. It would be, you were dead in the water. You were dead in the water 3 years ago, 4 years ago.
Yeah,
So imagine you
it
didn't
wouldn't
start
have
this.
been dead,
AI
but it would have been
AI took you off.
very, very different. Like, I'd have been more in a proofreading
Do,
capacity than an actual transcription capacity now. Um,
hmm,
but I was physically suffering at that point because the physical demands on your body to be sat at a desk transcribing for 10 plus hours a day, which some days I was, it wasn't, it, I couldn't keep going. I had tendonitis in my hands. I had shooting pains up
yikes.
my arms. I was really, really struggling. Like, I had a lot of back pain and a lot of struggles with my focus. Now I know I've got ADHD, but back then I didn't know, and I would really struggle to
Hmm,
focus on projects for long periods. So yeah, it does almost feel quite serendipitous that it happened as it did, because AI would have definitely made my job a lot less in demand.
right. And then you think, I'm sure you've had this thought. What if you didn't jump into this world of content and teaching? What if? And I say the same thing to myself too. Yes, I was still a recruiter back then. I'm still a recruiter now. But what if I didn't start the podcast? Because then I wouldn't have a brand to build upon. And in this market right now, when so many are out of work, there's not a demand for recruiters. And
Mm.
I would be shit out of luck right now. I would be struggling, but I have this brand that I built that has enabled me to secure sponsorship opportunities and get my voice out in front of people, and I've been able to monetize it.
The reality of it is, if I hadn't taken a shot at LinkedIn training, or I hadn't ever logged into LinkedIn, that COVID would have left me homeless, because I
That's
would not have
incredible.
been able to afford my rent. I would not have, like, the government support would not have covered it. I didn't have any family that had the space to accommodate me and my son. They would have done. If it came to the point where we would have been homeless, I would have had to probably move in with my nan and granddad, in somewhere that was reasonably close to where we were living at that point. I would have been in big trouble. And then the way the economy is going now, even if I had managed to get myself back on my feet and get into a rental property, I would have been in a situation where, like, everything's more expensive now in the UK than it was 5 years ago. Not just a
Brutal.
small amount of inflation, massively. Rent
No, it's
prices have
brutal.
gone up crazy. Energy prices have increased. I look at the problems people are having now, and I'm like, I would have been in a lot of debt, or homeless, or just
Scary.
not making ends meet, if I never logged on to LinkedIn at that point.
Never.
Or I would have had to go and find a job, um, and hope that I could get a decent wage. But I don't think I would have had much of a shot of getting a decent wage, because I didn't know I had the skills that LinkedIn has taught me I have, and that I've grown over the last few years.
Do you remember not just your first post, but like that those first couple of months when momentum started to build? What was that decision point where you said, you know what, I think there's an opportunity here for me to build something on this platform? When was that, and what did it feel like? Like, what went
I
through your head at
don't
that time?
remember the exact point. I remember logging in and being like, I need to work less hours, which means I need better clients. When I say better, I was working for doctors and typing medical reports, and say a 10-minute medical report would probably take an hour to type, because of the way the doctor spoke, the very technical language being used, the
Right.
amount of checking that you had to do. That might take me an hour, and I'd maybe make £10, £10, £12 from it. If I did a building report, it might be a 60-minute report, but I could type it in about 80 minutes, because they
Mm,
were really simple to do. So I was looking for more building consultants to work for. So I was like, right, I can earn a lot more money in a lot less time if I find
right.
building
Simple
consultants.
formula.
So I went onto LinkedIn to find building consultants to work with. That was the point, um, which would have allowed me to earn extra money. I think at first I wasn't posting. When I did start posting, I was trying to sound like Mrs. Corporate, and
Hmm.
it felt so disgusting. Like, it
But
felt so
it,
uncomfortable not
it
being
was
me.
forced. It was forced.
Yeah, it was so, like, cringe. And then I think I randomly posted a stupid meme, and it wasn't even that funny, but it suddenly got masses of views. And I went, "Oh, okay, like, I can actually embrace humor on LinkedIn. Like,
Hmm.
that's surprising." And that was quite a turning point. And I think it was around December of 2019 that someone said to me, they were like, you realize you've got a really big following really fast. And I wasn't tracking numbers at that point. You can verify that. Like, you'll have,
Right.
I wasn't in, I never even looked at other people's numbers, my numbers, nothing. And it was the first time I was made aware of the fact that my growth on the platform was unusually fast.
Hmm.
And I remember thinking, wow, that's weird. I was getting loads of connection requests. I was getting loads of follow notifications, but I wasn't really that wasn't
Right.
something that was on my radar. And I think it was at that point when someone highlighted it to me about how unusually fast it had been. I went, that's cool. Like maybe
Hmm.
I can do something with that.
What can I
Uh,
do with it?
and then
Yeah.
it was when I think by COVID lockdown in March 2020,
Jeez.
I just got back from Thailand and they'd started talking about COVID and locking down, and I panicked. And I was like, I'm going to have to think of something else to do. And I'd had an idea of doing like an ebook on how to grow on LinkedIn, how to find clients on LinkedIn, because I was finding loads and people kept asking me. And I was like, oh,
You
maybe I
figured
can
it,
just
but
like
you figured it
make a
out though.
resource that I could sell for £10 and like help people. And that was the first time I started to think like I could actually make money based on the amount of people asking me how and interacting with my posts. I was like, well, I could probably do something to make money. And then obviously I decided to start offering like one-to-one training, and it was like £99 power hours at the
Like,
beginning. Like
whoa.
lots of
So now
people
you're up to
start.
$100 an hour. That's a crazy increase in your bill rate,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
right? That's
yeah.
exponentially
Massively.
almost tenfold. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah, and that came from seeing other
Mm,
people on LinkedIn doing similar and charging quite a lot more than that, and I was
mm,
like, "Well, I've only been using the platform for 6 months, so I'm not gonna try and charge too much," because
right.
I didn't really consider what I had to offer worth much, and obviously that changed fairly quickly.
You mentioned a key moment when you posted that meme and you felt that humor was a
Mm,
safe space for you.
yeah.
Now, you are a brand. You have a look, you have a sound, you have a voice, you have a vibe. Was it difficult for you to fully embrace your true self on a social media platform?
At first, yes, and I don't think I really knew who my true self was at that point.
You're
Or
figuring
that
it
I
out.
hadn't
Oh,
ever really given it much thought. I just was. There was no like strategy behind it or reflection on it. I was just me. And I've always been just me. I've never really been the sort of person that tries to be different to impress others. I'm just like sharp as myself. I've never struggled with that. I worried about the judgment on LinkedIn to start with
big time.
because I'd always been told that like the
Mhm.
corporate world is not a place for someone with lots of tattoos. Like you're never or facial piercings. Like I was not the
No.
kind of person that anyone in the business world would take seriously. So that was hard to get over because I had been told that
Yeah.
for so many years. I was convinced that that was right. But the more I posted with aspects of my personality sort of showing and a bit of like spunk and a bit of rebelliousness and
Mhm.
the kindness as well. I'm not like some outlaw that's constantly trying to stir trouble, but I am quite opinionated and I am quite assertive now. But the more I think I saw other people supporting what I was saying and agreeing with it, and also the
I
private messages that I was getting, that was probably more impactful. The private messages from other women saying, seeing you be bold and unapologetic makes me feel more confident. And it may helped me to do this thing that they'd achieved. That was the thing that made me go, actually, by being more me and embracing that, I am helping other people to do the
yes.
same.
Yes.
Therefore, it's worth me taking a bit of flack from the people that don't like me.
There's always gonna be haters. That means you're doing something right.
Yeah, but it made it worthwhile. When I was just a victim of the haters and
Mm.
it was just me being attacked and it felt pointless and I wasn't getting anything positive from it, it hurt. But when I get pushback from other people now, I just think, "Oh, bollocks to you." Like I've got 3 women in my DMs yesterday telling me how they've been inspired to get a new piercing or tell their job about their tattoos so they can wear them out
It's
loud,
so
or
much more
they've
mainstream
started a
now.
business as a single mum. And that's the stuff that makes any negativity
You
worth it because there's way more positivity than negativity.
you're I hate to say this because it's gonna boost you up a little bit, but you're a beacon for authenticity, and authenticity is it's turned into a buzzword, right? And
Yeah.
because authentic, you can't be authentic, you just are authentic. And
That's one
generally
of my
speaking,
phrases that I use a lot, yeah.
is
It's
it?
some
Like, you
authenticity
can't
isn't something that you can be, it's something that you are when you
no.
stop trying to be anything else.
Just be yourself. And I am confident that's the reason you and I connected, because just like you, I'm unapologetic. I've never tried to be anything that I'm not here. Early on, obviously, I was very outspoken on the platform, and I took a stance against people hacking it. And for me, that and we're aligned on that. We both do things the
Mm,
right way. And there's been times where both of us have been lured by the dark side, because you look at these certain people that have reached these numbers, and look at them saying how much they've monetized, and look at them saying how much money they make. And you're like, well, what's the harm in that? What's the harm? You only
I've
live
never
once.
even been tempted. Not
You
even not once been
so
tempted by that.
early on, and I'm talking before we even met. This is like early 2019, maybe late 2018, when things started to really build up on the platform, and there was a
Mm,
group of people who did this, and I remember, I don't remember the exact time and place, but that thought went through my head, and then I
mm,
said to myself, fucking kidding me? That's not who I am. I'm not a cheater. I'm not a faker. How the hell am I going to look my kids and my family and my business? How am I going to build an authentic brand on LinkedIn when I'm cheating?
yeah.
Right? Like how am I going to justify that? And it was at that moment, and it wasn't even a hard choice. It wasn't even like, but the thought went through my head just from let me see what they're doing and how they're doing it. And once I saw how they were doing it, it was disingenuous, and I felt it was a scam.
Mm,
And that's not who I am. I that's not my core value. That's not who
yeah.
I am. And I think that's the core reason that we align. So I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the haters. You've dealt with more than your fair share on this platform, complete knobs, everything from, you know, probably just rude comments to really hateful speech. And that had to hurt, right? Like I don't care how strong you are, how strong you think you are, how much you could just delete them and everything, but seeing them adds up. How did you manage that? How did you get through that process to a point now where you're bulletproof?
I wouldn't say I'm bulletproof. I'm still
Bullet
human.
resistant.
Yeah, definitely bullet resistant. Um, I There's comments have always been primarily about how I look. And
Yeah.
that's either people objectifying me because of how I look, being sleazy because of how I look, or
Making
saying that I'm
assumptions.
only successful because of how I look, and sort of minimizing what I've achieved down to, well, it's just because she looks this way. So no, if no one's attacked me in a way that would really hurt me, like you're a terrible mum,
It's
or
superficial comments,
like,
right? They're
yeah,
base level.
it's
They don't know
superficial.
you.
And
It's all on the
also,
outside.
well, this is the thing. The people that have criticized me are never people who actually know me,
No.
right? They don't know the woman behind the business. They just know a curated version of what's posted on the internet. They don't know, they don't see me snuggled in bed with my two cats, my dog, and my baby in the morning. They don't see the kind messages that I'm sending people behind the scenes just to check in and see if they're okay because I haven't seen the post for a while. They don't see all of that. They just see someone who's been successful from gaining lots of attention online, however she's done it, um, who, and I guess, a lot of it comes from envy or
Mhm. Yeah.
self-loathing. A lot
Jealousy.
of it, like she's done something that I have
You are
maybe
what they're
tried to
not,
do, but not.
right? You are what
Yeah,
they're
I
not.
mean, or what they would
They
like to
want to
be,
be.
but maybe doubt
Hmm.
themselves sometimes. And I've had messages. I remember one woman sent me a message saying that she'd actually gone to therapy. This was such a strange message. She'd gone to therapy and talked about me in therapy. This was someone I did not know,
That's
because she was
crazy.
so jealous of me and what I've achieved that she couldn't get past it. And she'd gone to therapy for like a year and then messaged me to tell me that she's now over it. And I was like, I'm not really sure why
That's
you've messaged me about this because I had no idea and I was quite
that's
content
some
not knowing.
baby reindeer shit right there. That's some baby
It
reindeer
was
stuff going on right
it
there.
was slightly odd, but if it made her feel better, that's fine. But I was a bit like,
Mm.
you only know whether you're envious in a nasty way or you're envious in a positive way. You only know this, that you don't know what's actually going on in my life behind the scenes. You only
You don't
know
know
what
me.
I'm willing to share. But because I share what feels like a lot and I'm very vulnerable, people feel like they know everything. And obviously I don't share everything. I'm very careful
No.
about what I do share and what I'm willing to put out into the world. So yeah, I'm bullet resistant. There's still things that would hurt
So
me, but my values are so strong, and I know the positive impact I've managed to have on so many people. And I like myself, like I genuinely like who I am as
You
a
should.
person. I'm not sure I would say the same years ago, because I think my self-esteem was a
Oh,
lot more fragile then. But now my self-esteem is rock solid. I know I've got a good heart and good intentions, and everything I do, even when I don't always get it right, is done with good intentions. And if
and it
I can
comes
go
from
to
a good, it
sleep
comes
at
from a good
night,
place.
if I can look at my son in the face and he's proud of me, if my family are proud of me, if my real true friends are proud of me, then it doesn't matter what any stranger on the internet says. I'm I'm
Amen.
comfortable with who I am. Like if I
Exactly. I
believed
love
in
that.
God,
So,
he'd let me into heaven. So you know.
so how do you take that mindset and I'm 100% sure, and you know this, and the numbers will tell you that this is the foundation of the business that you built. And that was a process too, because if you're teaching people on LinkedIn, you're still learning real time as well. You're learning how to grow and everything. So talk about those early days of like, what was the foundation of your training and your class? Like, what were you teaching that was different than maybe some other folks out there? What was your approach? And we don't need to get into nuts and bolts and details there, but just from a high level perspective, what was the guidance? How did you guide people to start or, elevate their own LinkedIn journey and experience?
I met them where they were at, because it's not a blueprint. It's not a blueprint like you do this, you'll get clients. It has to work for each individual, and that's based on who they are, what they do, who they're trying to attract, what they're comfortable doing, what time will allow them to do. So I was
Hmm.
meeting people where they were at in terms of what their life looked like, and what their experience level was in terms of social media as a whole and with LinkedIn. Like, what were their goals? What realistically could they manage to do in a day? And not sort of giving unrealistic expectations. If someone said to me, come to me saying, I want you to help me get to 100,000 followers, I'd be like, well, see ya, because that's not what I do. If
No.
you're telling me you want to get clients on LinkedIn and this is what you do and this is the stage you're starting at, I can help you do that, but I'm not going to help you to become an influencer. Like, don't get me wrong, some of my clients
Mm.
did go on to grow very large followings following my guidance, but that was never the goal for them. The goal was always they wanted to grow their business. And you don't
That
need
is
millions of followers to grow a business.
I love and that you use the word blueprint because most of the courses and stuff out there, it's a formulaic template to follow along to go. You're taking the individual approach and giving them the tools to figure out their voice and for them
It
to
would be so
understand what their goals
yeah.
are.
It would be so hypocritical of me to try to fit everybody into a blueprint, because I don't fit into any kind of a cookie cutter mold. I'm different, and
Yeah.
everything about me is slightly left of center. Like, I'm just not a normal person. But
I love that. That's
that
why we're
has been my
friends, Leah.
superpower. But that, because
None of
I've
my friends
embraced
are
that
none of
and
my
listened,
friends are normal.
no,
None of my
normal's
friends
boring. But like
normal's
I've lent
boring.
into I've lent into that heavily,
Mm.
and learned to accept who I am and gone, okay, but these are the bits of who I am that are
What what
inspiring to people or that are valuable to my business and my growth. So I've then helped other people to feel comfortable bringing who they are and showing them the value, like holding a mirror up and saying, yeah, but the way you see yourself is not how I see you. It's different. And these are all the amazing things about you that you're not seeing that will help you to do what you're trying to achieve.
why'd I never take your course just for shits and giggles? I mean, I think I do okay myself here, but I love that energy and vibe, and that's what makes you different and unique. Leah, was there ever in the first, let's call it year or so of the business, where you had doubts, or maybe you're like, nah, this isn't right, this isn't working, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, this isn't going to work out? Was there ever that doubt?
I still have that doubt every day. I
Oh,
still
believe
think
me.
that every single day. Like, I feel like I've just winged it all and followed my nose. I'm a very intuitive business owner, and I'm
Mm.
constantly just following my gut. But my gut's been right on far more occasions than it's been wrong. Gut sucks when it's in terms of dating, but in business, pretty good. Um,
Well, you
so
got to
yeah,
you
I
got to
still
pick your choose your battles. You got to choose your
yeah,
battles.
right. I could be rich, I can't be in love. It's one or the other.
You got a
But
good man at home right now. Yeah.
I got a little man at home right now.
Little
Yeah.
man.
But yeah, it's one of those things, like I've just learned to live with that imposter on my shoulder and gone, do you know what? I'm probably never going to feel like I've got this nailed. However, I'm still going. I think in the first year of LinkedIn training, I didn't actually think that I would continue LinkedIn training. Like the first 6 months or so, I was just like, well, this is just to get me through lockdown. and then I'll go back to transcription. But once I mean, I was earning more money doing LinkedIn training in the first month than I'd probably earned in the last 6 months transcribing.
That's
So
incredible.
it became, I really was convinced that this was just a flash in the pan and that I'd end up going back to transcription. So I kept the business running in the background with a team of people helping me, as my sort of like, oh, that's what I'll go back to. LinkedIn training's
And,
just like a short-term fix. And that
and that business is
obviously didn't happen.
done, right?
Oh yeah, I literally, I think it got to the summer and there was a project that was due to go in and one of the team members hadn't completed it, and I found myself
Yeah.
sat on a Saturday morning earning £9 to type a
You're like, what
medical
the
report.
fuck am I
And I went,
doing?
and I
Fuck
literally, I
this.
had that exact, I was like, what am I doing? And I just, in that moment, I remember the exact moment I was stood in my utility room of my rental house, and I sent an email from my very old iPhone saying, effective immediately, stereotype is no longer trading. Here's a recommendation of other people that you can go to. And my team members, I just sent them all the work directly. And I just said, thanks so much for being my customer for this many years, and wish you all the best. And I sent that
Burn
email
that
and I
boat.
went, oh my God, I've gone,
The
I've stopped.
power,
Yeah.
the power of burning the boats. The power of
Yeah.
burning the boats and letting that one just go out. But that got you to where you are here. I want to talk about a moment for me as somebody in the front row. I've been a front row fan in the fan club since day one. Right, I got my Swifty bracelets on, my Leah Turner Swifty bracelets on
I
over here.
need Leah
But
bracelets, don't I?
yeah, I mean, but for me, there was one moment. There was one post, and there was one moment where my heart exploded in a good way for you. Is when you bought your house. Like that
Yeah.
was I mean, I told you immediately how I felt about that, but I'm still getting chills now because it was the ultimate sign of growth and success that you did it for you and your boy. Like you did it. And that
Yeah.
was just like, are you kidding me? Like yes.
I'm getting emotional now
Like
because I
like
remember
I
that
felt
feeling was so powerful.
everything. I felt everything for you. And I was so just genuinely happy to watch somebody who does it right, who found her path, who found her road, who found her tribe, and you did it. And you keep on doing it. I think that's what makes you unique. So let's fast forward. Here's your flowers. You're not getting any more. No more flowers today. I'm done with that. But and no, I mean that. I genuinely mean that. Like that's what life is all about. People
Mm,
like you and I, if we don't go out there and kill what we eat, we're not going to eat. And that's our
yeah,
priorities.
there's
We
no
have to do,
backup.
and there's no greater motivation. Like there's no option. Like failure is not an option at this point. Like we don't work 9 to 5s. I don't have a steady paycheck. You don't have a steady paycheck. So if we don't keep this fire running, and that for
Yeah,
me, and I'm sure it is for you, that's the engine. Like if that engine isn't pumping and we don't feel it, and like, yes, we have our down days and our off days. And yes, we take days off and we recuperate and we rejuvenate and we refresh and everything, but there's no stopping. Like this
no.
train isn't stopping. Leah train's not chopping. Podcast train's not, like this train is going.
I've never had a backup. Like my mum doesn't have anything to give me. If I screw up, there is no. She doesn't even own a house herself. She's still in a rental. My grandparents have a house, but very little in terms of like savings. Well, like there is no safety net.
There's
There's
no
no
safety net.
rich family member that's going to bail me out. It's all on my head, and it always has been my whole life. So I've just never been one to sit around and whinge about my situation. I've just been like, right, pull yourself up by the socks and go, how do we
How do we
move
do it?
forward? What's next? And it's never, if it had come down to it, I would have got a job in a supermarket and worked my ass off. I would have been waitressing in the evenings and
Would have figured it
begging.
out. You would have figured it out.
Yeah, there would never have been a time where I wouldn't have been able to keep a roof over our head. I would have found a way because I'm resourceful like that. And I'm resourceful because I'm a mum. Like, and to be fair, I've always been resourceful, but that desire and that sense of responsibility is so much more powerful with my little boy to think about. That moment of buying the house, like when I had the offer accepted, and it was a house so much bigger than I thought I would afford because I basically an old lady wanted to get rid of the house because she'd already bought a flat and downsized because her family had all moved out and her husband had passed. House had been stood empty for 7 or 8 months, and
Hmm.
I offered, she'd sold it like 3 times and the offer had fallen through. So I offered, and the house was really underpriced. And she wanted it to go to a family that would raise their family like she did there. And
Mm.
yeah, and I got lucky. And it's a lot bigger than I should have been able to afford. And I love it. And I've spent the last 3 years renovating it. And
Isn't that
it's a
fun?
beautiful home for us now.
I love it. And I love that for you because it gives you a physical foundation. Like
It's
for
safety
you and your
for us.
son, it's
Yeah.
safety. It's not like we have to move every 2 years. I don't have to worry about a landlord. I don't have to worry about paying the rent. Like you did it and you
Mhm.
built it on this platform. So let's shift gears for a little bit and let's get into the shop talk here because you're a wealth of information. And I want to talk about the whole community. First of all, anybody doesn't know, love the name. It's House of Leah Turner, and it's a
House
homage
of LT
to
actually, but yeah.
sorry, House of LT. Sorry, let's be technical here. And I love that it pays homage to the 80s and 90s house scene, and it's just true to you and it's true to your roots, and it represents everything that you are. Was there ever a question of what you were going to call this community, like, or is like that's what you're doing it?
So it pays homage to the ballroom scene, the
Yes,
transgender, lesbian, gay, transgender community in that's where the
yes.
name originated.
Well, you say
Uh,
ballroom, I say house in the 80s, 90s, which is a classic house movement here in New York, right? You have Paradise
yeah.
Garage, that whole vibe. Yes.
So I didn't know what I was going to call it. And I always stress about naming things. I'm like, oh, I can't think of anything and I'll try and force it and nothing will come up. And then it will just be a random lightning bolt of inspiration that comes to me. And I was watching the TV show Pose, which is a BBC series that focused on it, and it featured tons of transgender actors and actresses. Um, and I loved it, and the message in it just hit home
Mm,
so much. All these people that had nowhere to go, that didn't belong anywhere, that had been outcasted by society, found safety and security and friendship and support with these house mothers in this ballroom scene. And I just felt like that's the kind of leader that I want to be. I want to be the safe space for the people that have never felt like they quite belong in business or are
love
lonely
that.
in business. And so it just felt fitting, but I wanted to obviously use an acronym because it's easier to just sort of say that you're
It's
part of something nice
digestible.
and short. Yeah. So it took me a while
Well,
to come up with it, and I was just like torturing
I love
myself
it.
because I couldn't think of anything, and then it just sort of popped into my head when I was watching the TV show.
So keep me straight here 580 members, right? About?
Around 550 at the moment. Yeah, we had a little drop off because of tax season. January and February is always a struggle for communities
Right.
because people are trying to save money, and it's always communities are
Tell me about
always
it.
the first thing that go. But luckily for us, most of our members do actually come back. They'll come back after a couple of months because they'll miss it, and so they're not gone
580.
for too long.
What's the secret sauce to this group? How do you foster that sense of connection? 550 is still a big number, but how, right? Like if you look at psychological, they say like group shouldn't be more than like 30 people, but you like how do you foster community and creating value pendulums on all sides? How do you get there? And how do you keep it from turning into just a free for all chat room?
It is quite a free for all chat room. It's a chat app, so people will do a post and then they can like reply in the thread to the posts. And it's pretty busy in there. Like a lot of people have come into the community and said, "Oh, well, I was in other communities, but there was never really any chat." I'm like, "It's not really a community, then, is it? Like, it's just a membership." And ours
Hmm,
is busy. Like there's not a day goes past, even at weekends, where people aren't posting multiple times a day in all the different channels that we've got. I think the key to fostering it is me being there. Like I am the reason people have joined. The vast majority
right.
are people who've known
They
about
came for
my
you.
brand in some respect or another. And then you've got people that have been brought in by existing members that have no idea like of me, but they've been told the community's great. So that's started to happen. So it's sort of started to go beyond just my brand. But I'm in it every day. Every single day, I'm in there speaking to people, starting conversations, asking questions, helping people to get to know each other. We have community calls, we have in person meeting opportunities. We provide so many like ridiculous amounts of masterclasses. We are giving something for everybody. whether you're just someone who just wants to use it for the social aspect and being able to
Mhm.
ask questions, that's fine. Some people come in and they never really engage with the chat, but they're watching the masterclasses, and you'll see them show up to the live calls.
Everyone finds their own
Or
way of value, right?
and we don't put any pressure on people to use it a certain amount. It's not exclusive in any way. It's like we don't just have one accountant in there. Right, that's our Holt accountant now. Everybody has to use that Holt account. We don't do any of that. It's like you come in, don't behave like a knobhead, be kind, respectful, and
Right,
supportive of
respectful.
each other. And that's the thing, I think, because people can ask a question in there, and inevitably, like I'm yet to see someone ask a question that someone doesn't have an answer to, and
That's the
or know
key.
someone to recommend. Literally within an hour, someone said, "Oh, I'm having problems with some SEO for YouTube. I hired someone. They've not done it properly. Can anyone do it?" Within an hour, like I'd tagged someone that knew, and they jumped on a call the following day. Problem solved. Like he had all the advice he needed, and that happens every day. I don't even know the full extent of it all because I'm just like they don't tell me about all the private conversations they're all having. You know.
I love
So
it.
I think
What
that you have on hand the answer to any business question, or you can just go and say, "Do you know what? I'm having a really crap day today. Everything seems to go wrong." And 3 or 4 people will comment and just go, "Do you know what? I'm having a day like that as well. Should we have a coffee?" Or, I had that exact same problem. I felt that way here last week. Here's a suggestion of something that you could do. Just knowing that there are people there that genuinely
That's real
care and want
community.
to offer
That's what it
support.
means.
It's a
That's the
and it's this
definition.
is not me just talking it up. You can come in there and you can see that's exact. And people say to me, I did some interviews recently with 10 of the members that have been there for between 3 months and 2 years. And I said, what was the thing that surprised you the most when you came into the Hole? And they said, the sheer volume of people that are so kind and helpful with anything that you need. And I don't mind giving help to others because I know that will get paid forward to me when I need it. A real community. And we do talk about it, but I think people don't actually believe
What?
it till they see it, that
They
it
got to get in.
really is that good.
This episode of the podcast, live from ERE 2024 in Anaheim, is brought to you by Juicebox.ai. Recruiting just got smarter with Juicebox, the company behind People GPT. With AI sourcing powered by generative AI, you simply tell People GPT who you are looking for in a natural language. Need a senior data scientist with healthcare experience? Done. Looking for a creative marketing manager based out of Austin? Easy. People GPT instantly creates a search and evaluates profiles, saving you hours of time and effort. Already trusted by over 500 companies and agencies, from boutique recruiting firms to Fortune 500 TA teams, People GPT is revolutionizing the way to find talent. Ready to level up your sourcing game? Use code POZ20, that's POZ20, for an exclusive 20% discount. Juicebox, where hiring meets the future. Start sourcing smarter today. Visit juicebox.ai. Thanks. What number are you capping this at to keep it tight?
I don't know. I haven't put a number on
Does
it
it get
yet.
to a point where it's could be too big?
I don't know.
You just,
We'll
just
see.
take it day by day.
If it gets to the point where, like, we bring in a new
Unmanageable.
community manager for every 300 members that we have. And so we've got 2 at the moment. And we will increase that. I think we'll probably increase it before we get to 900, because
Right.
we need that sort of management there. But as long as everybody's getting their needs met, we won't cap it. But we may at some point create a version 2. And so, like, if it gets to the point where we can't keep going, we would potentially create a version 2 where people can come together in certain channels, but not all of them, and they can come together for masterclasses, but not all the chat channels, which we can do within the app that we
Interesting.
use. We would be able to divide chat channels up. So it could even be like that we do it regionally and say, right, the advice and questions is for everybody, but the general chat and the chit chat ones, we'd have like regional.
You're gonna have to
ones.
sub that out. You've had employees before in your past company, in your transcription service, but did it feel differently when you made your first full-time hire for Holt?
I don't hire anyone. I have no employees. Everyone is
You have
freelance.
no employees?
Nope.
Sorry.
Everybody is a freelancer.
Sorry.
And
Let me
everybody
rephrase that. The need to hire that first freelancer, when you said to yourself, I cannot do this all myself and I need to scale.
Well, I had help right from the beginning of launching it because I
Mm,
needed to help to get the techs all set up. So
right.
Laura and Alex from IT Moon do that for me. And I already had an accountant and I had a financial advisor. So I had people and I had a VA as well. So I already had people that I was working alongside that helped me to get the whole
Right.
going. When first brought in and I had the tech team in place and they were supporting me with anything that went wrong and they were just on a like pay as you need them basis.
Hmm.
Then I brought in Danielle. So that was 18 months ago now. She was the first community manager because it was like, I literally no longer have enough time to answer all of the questions and be as
Can't
present as
do
I
it.
need to. I was still doing the LinkedIn training. So I was like, right, we need someone who's in the community that can network people together, tag people that need to be tagged, etc., etc. Um, so it felt good. And I was really confident in who I was bringing in because she'd been a member since the beginning.
It's like so
So
she
it was,
knew she knew she,
yeah.
yeah, she knew the
Yeah.
vibe. She knew everything.
I already had
It was
my eyes
natural.
set on her when I knew that I was going to need
Mm,
to have someone. I was like, the first when I'm going to need a community manager at some point. That's who it's going to be. And
love
then
it.
I forced her to give up her full time. She was still working as a teacher, and I
But
was
it's
like, "Quit, quit! I need you." So,
you recruited her. Now you can start a recruiting bit. So let me ask you this. I mean, you're in the group all day. What are some of those, especially 2025, early 2025? What are these things that are keeping small business owners up at night? What are you hearing? What are the pain points right now? What are some of those
not
common
making
themes
enough
that you're
money,
hearing?
not people not spending. That's a real pain point for a lot of people at the moment. They're worried because everybody's freaking out about price increases. Everybody's skint. Not
Hmm.
everybody, but like a good portion of their ideal client bases are all not spending money. Or they'll put it off till Q2 because it's been a heavy tax
Yeah,
bill or something.
tell me about it.
So I think that's a big pain point for people, and I think just overwhelm because and that's not a 2025 thing, that's just a general thing. When you're a business owner, we go into running a business knowing very well how to do the service that we're selling, right? If you're a coach, you might be extremely good as a coach, but you don't have a clue about managing your finances, and you don't know anything about marketing or social media or copywriting or building a newsletter. Like, you don't know these things, and there's so much to learn, and you're surrounded by people that appear to be smashing it, and you're
Hmm.
like, but how are they doing it all on their own? And I don't think enough people are transparent about actually how much support they have from the people that like are on their teams. And they'll say, "Oh, I'm a solopreneur." It's like, yeah, but
Yeah, but they have a whole team
you have
behind
an
them.
email marketer and a tech team, and you've got an accountant, and you've got a VA. So you're not actually on your own, are you? And people are, I'm a one person business. I don't ever say I'm a
Mm,
one person business because I'm not. I have a massive team now. Like, there's probably 10 people that support my businesses on a weekly basis now. And that for me feels massive. But they're all people that I've hired from within the community, which I
I
love.
love that. That's great.
Because straight away that I've got shared values with them and that they want to see
Right?
what I'm
Isn't
doing.
that like hire from within? Hire from within. That's
Mhm.
incredible. Let's shift
Yeah.
gears and talk about the podcast. Let's talk about the podcast, the Holt Survival
Mm.
Guide for Small Business. First of all, you need to come up with a shorter title for that. I do like it though, but it's a little.
Keywords. It's good for keywords.
It is good for it's good for keywords. And
Mm.
the funny enough thing is, like, I've been playing around that too with, like, after the podcast, it was career and life journeys. I had that for a while, and then I morphed it
Mm.
back down to decoding success. And I'm starting to play around with the words a little bit for that second part of, because no one's looking for the podcast unless you're specifically looking for that show. And I saw that as a
Yeah.
pain point early on, so I played around with the SEO there. But I consult folks on building podcasts. That's one of the things I love to do. And the first question I ask is, what is the why behind you launching this podcast?
I want more small business owners to know what it's really like to run a small business, not the social media version of it.
Right.
That's the big why, because so many people think I'm going to start a business and it's all going to be like lions and fancy coffees and meetings in the city, and It's not. It's late nights. It's crying into your cereal in the morning because you barely had any sleep.
Yes.
You're still trying to be a parent and you're plagued with guilt because you need to work round the clock on your business, but also your child needs you, and your passions and your responsibilities are so split, and you become so obsessed with your business that your friends are sick of talking to you because it's all you talk about. There are so many things that happen to you as a small business owner, and that we don't see that bit. We're fed this glossy, filtered Instagram version of, everyone's a millionaire within the first 6 months, and
Yeah, of
everybody's
course.
hiring and scaling and all of this. But okay, they might appear to be scaling, right? They've posted
Optics,
that they've
baby.
hired 10 new people this month. What you're not seeing is they're all interns. They're 20 years old. They're all underpaid. The boss is an absolute
Yes.
bastard to them. And then within 2 months they've quit because you've burned them out. They're not seeing that bit. They're just seeing the
No.
fancy headlines. And I was like, I don't want to have people coming into business who aren't prepared for the reality of how bloody hard it's going to be. Your mental
It's
health
not
is going to
glamorous.
take
It's
a
not.
kicking. Your sleep's going to take a kicking. Your finances, you're never going to be more stressed about your finances because
Never.
one person rejecting you is going to feel like you're never going to pay your rent again. It's
Oh,
hard. And I don't
I
want
love this.
and I wanted to provide a reality check for people, and that's what we're doing.
Great answer. I'm going to clip that up for you. I'm going to clip that up for you and ship it out to you. But you talk about the mental health of entrepreneurship, and I think that's the hardest part. And it's painful. Like, it's palatable and it's painful, and I feel it like you. There are sleepless nights.
Mm,
The best way I describe it is it's a roller coaster. And the people that you
yeah.
see are the genuine successful are 1%. And then you have the 20% that fake it till they make it, optics, whatever it is. So to have a platform where you can keep it real and have real conversations. So what type of guests are you looking to have on? What type of conversations? How are you formulating this show? And one thing I will tell you
So
though is, and you know this, it's a canvas, and you could create whatever you want. You could change it. You could experiment. You could test. You could do whatever the fuck you want because it's your show and it's your art. Remember that.
the first season, we had members from within the community. So a real range of members that have been in the community right since the very start. So I wanted to reward their loyalty by bringing them in and having those conversations. And they're all business owners themselves. They all have their own interesting stories and insights to give. The second season, which starts next week, that's got some really tough conversations, but some also really brilliant conversations. So we've got a guy who called James Elliott, who was a paratrooper. He was a homeless, drug addict, alcoholic, and he turned his life around. He's trained as a psychotherapist. He's probably, without a doubt, actually the smartest guy I've ever met. Like, insanely, brilliantly intelligent. And his episode, I was just like, it's mind blowing, and it's all about like building resilience, which you need as a business
Mm-hmm.
owner. So I think this season's been, there's a mixture of like real life business stories and struggles. Luke Manton, who's my long term VA, who's got
Love
Tourette's and
Luke.
he's
Yep.
own a VA agency. There's Takdi Shah, who's a recruiter. So she overhauls recruitment processes for
Mm-hmm.
companies, and it's like a freelance recruiter. And she hasn't made any money in months. She's been really, really in trouble. And
It's
she's
brutal.
talked really openly, incredibly vulnerable. Like, you won't listen to it without a tear or two. She's been really candid about how brilliant her first year in business was, and she was incredibly successful. She made more money than she ever had in her life. And then all of a sudden it was gone. And how that's impacted her mentally, and all of her confidence has dipped, and she's really, really struggled. So we've got a real variety of guests that have grown like big companies, struggling with small companies, done it in the face of adversity, done it despite things holding them back, like disabilities or self-doubt. So I think it's a real variety of people. And I don't know what we'll aim for season 3, but I think the variety and the diversity of the conversations is quite reflective of who I am as a person. Like, I don't like to be stuck in one particular box. I like to bounce between lots of different ones. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's reflected in the
And
podcast.
you're gonna find this, and you're doing it now. There's an art to the curation of the guests, and I take a lot of pride in who I bring on the show, when they're kind of sequenced in the flow of maybe some other stories coming on. And I get pitched a lot. I get pitched from PR agencies, and I read every single one of them because there's something in the pitch that may not seem like an ideal guest for the show if you're like a listener to my show, but I see something in that story. And for me, it's the journey. And I want to see the struggle. I want to see the comeback. And yes, it has to be relevant and it has to be something I'm interested in. Like I get pitched people who run like franchise businesses and financial planning. I'm like, that's nope. Because here's the deal. And you'll agree with this, hopefully. If I'm not interested as a host, you're not going to be interested as a listener because you're not going to hear the best of me. You're not going to hear
Yeah.
me actually caring and giving a shit about the conversation that I'm having.
I'm finding that
That's
I
it.
get a lot of pitches now. I'm getting a lot of people pitching me to be on the
It's a
podcast.
good sign.
But I
And you have to be selective and say no.
They're not. People aren't very good at pitching themselves, though, are they?
Oh my God.
Like,
And sometimes if I have a minute, I will give people feedback on how bad their pitch is in a nice way.
yeah.
Like sometimes somebody will pitch me and they won't even put the full name of the guest that they're pitching or include a media kit or a link. I'm
Well,
like,
this is it. I just get like a
who are you
couple of
pitching?
sentences about why they've had an impressive story, and I'm like, okay, but join the queue because I know 1,000 people that have got a very similar story. Like, what makes you different? What is different about you?
Mhm.
That's for me is the thing is what is unique about what you're doing and how will it apply? Like, if I'm going to bring you
Exactly.
onto a podcast and give you a great big audience that you don't currently have, what's in it
Mhm.
for my listeners and for me? Because I
Exactly.
can't, if my listeners aren't going to, what are they going to learn from your journey? Don't just say, oh, well, I've done this, this, and this. And why is it relevant? How are they going to benefit from
But
it? And people are just so focused on themselves rather than what's in it for the other person. And it's the same when people pitch me to be on their podcast. I'm like, okay, but what's in it for me? How many people am I going to reach? What new industries am I going to reach?
do
Is it my ideal client audience that are going to be there? Am I allowed to pitch my business in it? Like, are you going to
of
share a
course.
link? Where is it going to be published? Tell me those things. Otherwise, I'm just going to go, probably not, mate, actually,
No,
like, because I've got
not
opportunities that
right.
are bigger than that. And
Yeah.
I think people are just generally a bit self-absorbed when it comes, and I don't think it's intentional. I just think they don't know how to pitch
No.
themselves.
I think they don't have, and you hit the nail on the head. And I'm going to reiterate what you said because I push back on people. I go, what is my audience going to get out of this? My specific audience. Instead of
Yeah,
just a generic pitch, it's all about you. Like, so when a pitch comes to me and they frame it that way, that gets my
yeah,
attention. Okay, what is
yeah.
my audience? How's it relevant to it? Quick question. You have a hard stop?
No,
Great. So I
no,
can
we're
keep
good.
this going a little bit here. Back to LinkedIn. I just want to kind of circle it back here. Give us some secret tips here. What do you see small business owners not doing well on LinkedIn to attract clients or engage with them or find them?
They post content, but they never actually bother to contribute to other people's content. That's a classic.
One
They
sided.
just think, oh, if I post content on LinkedIn, then people will see it and want to buy from me. Well, they're not going to see it actually because it's going to show it to very few people unless you're actually putting effort into supporting others. LinkedIn rewards mutual effort. And actually, a lot of clients and a lot of followers will come from the comments you're leaving in other people's content. And I don't mean just pick someone like Justin Welsh who gets 2,000 comments on every post.
Yeah.
I mean, like, pick something where your comment is going to be noticeable. Go to
Mm-hmm.
smaller creators with less busy comment sections. Like, busy comment sections can be great if you're getting into a back and forth in a comment, like a sub thread on a comment. But if you're just going to comment on Justin Welsh's post and hope that
Just
gets you seen when there's thousands and thousands of
do
comments,
you,
that's not helping your business. Sorry,
I got
Justin
it.
Welsh, if you're listening, but it's not. It's
He's
not
not
going to
listening.
help you. Um,
I,
but it's one of those, like, and I would even say, like, trying to use my comment section to get seen isn't great. You can use my comment section to find other people that you relate to.
yes, use it the right way.
But if you're using my comment section to get seen by other people in my comment sections, you're probably not going to find much success. But you can go through and see who's commented. Because if you like my content and they like my content, you've got something in common. Maybe there's some shared values there. You might get along. Maybe there's a similar sense of humor. So
Amen.
it's thinking about, you need to contribute as well as
The right
create.
way.
You can probably get away with more with the comments that you'll leave, because more people, when you leave a comment that new people are going to see you. When you post a piece of content, you can't guarantee the algorithm's going to show it to anyone beyond your network. So in
Well,
2025, commenting and getting into the DMs. most people don't realize that if you have a two-way DM conversation with someone in your network, it pushes your content onto their feed, because a DM conversation literally tells your algorithm these two people are interested in one another. So
I
you
didn't know
start
that.
seeing their content more on your
I
feed.
I
So
didn't
if
I
you're
didn't know the
worried
I
you're
didn't know
not
the
being
DM element to it.
there you go. So if you
Interesting.
don't realize, if you think, oh
Oh,
God, no one's seeing my content, go on a DMing spree and say something that they can't resist replying to, right?
there you
Like
go.
just say
Pro
something
tips
really
out there.
friendly,
So
flatter them.
so maybe carve out, when you're thinking about your time spent on LinkedIn, anybody out there, really shift the percentage to not just posting and creating, but also engaging in DMs if you really want to see some growth. Don't just spend it being one-sided and commenting. I got to tell you, the last couple of years, the thing that's gotten my goat, early, and I'll say it, I don't really care, is this Justin Welsh model where they've basically built a magnet, right? And that's how they built themselves up, because they're saying you need to comment on top creators' posts. That's how you get exposure. That's how you grow. And that's the scam that's out there right now. That's the bullshit. That's the
I
pyramid.
post at
And
9
it's only
o'clock every
built.
morning. Make sure you comment
And
early so that you get seen. It's not going to
and
work.
they built like, it's bullocks, right? Like they've built
Yeah.
themselves up into this. And I think people need to see through the BS, and they need to follow this strategy that Leah talks about. You Intentional engagement with the right targeted, otherwise you're wasting your time and you're not driving any value for yourself. Like you're just fucking BSing on social media. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with that. If you want to, wank around for an hour or so and just doom scroll and make stupid comments, that's fine. But if you actually
Yeah.
want to drive business and do something intentional, be intentional. Be intentional.
I think a really good example of this is actually like how I've gone about building a community. Now, there's lots of people on LinkedIn that are trying to build communities, but they fall on their face because they've got a big following, but they don't actually have a community on LinkedIn because
No,
they've created content, but they've never actually bothered jumping into the DMs,
they
noticing
don't
when
engage.
someone's disappeared, creating, posting on, like commenting on their posts, and all of these sorts of things. Whereas I've been there posting every single day for 5 years, tracking my journey, engaging with people, having a laugh with people, going to events and meeting people, hosting events in with the whole purpose of meeting the people that have been supporting me. Like I have genuinely invested for 5 years in building a community.
You live the brand. You live the brand.
But then when I actually wanted to monetize and create a smaller community, people firstly trusted me, but also I was just moving a community over to a more private model. And it wasn't, I wouldn't, I
Exactly.
mean, there's a lot of people that are just followers. They read, they don't engage. We don't have any kind of a relationship. I don't even know that they exist most of the time because they don't want me to. But then there's people that are like hundreds of people that on a weekly basis I'm having conversations with, comments. That's not for everybody. Not everyone's going to have the time for that. But that's why I've
Mhm.
managed to build a community because I already had one. I'd already been investing for 3 years before I decided, like in those people for 3 years before I asked them to invest in me.
Love it. You put the time in. So all right, let's just talk about this. You've given up the coaching.
Yeah.
How
Scary.
did that decision come about?
I wanted a better quality of life. I, to be totally candid, making a lot of money. Like it was making a lot of money. And I went, money's not enough to keep me doing this. I
You need
was
time,
traveling all over the country and it was very nice getting paid multiple thousands of pounds for a
right?
single day. Um,
To talk about LinkedIn and
yeah,
branding and
but
code.
it was like it's the cost, the cost of doing that was being away from my son overnight, the exhaustion of traveling, my social battery ebbing low for the next
Mhm,
few days because I spent it all like on a coaching
mhm,
day. And I went, I can't scale the LinkedIn training unless I was going to franchise it or create some sort of Leah Turner LinkedIn training academy, which I don't
mm,
want to do. Um, because like I can teach people how to teach LinkedIn, but I can't teach them how to be me. And that's such a key part of what I do is I'm not just a LinkedIn trainer. I'm a marketer. I'm creative. My brain pings around all the time, and
mhm.
my empathy and how I relate to people is all part of that. I can't teach that. That comes from nearly 40 years of life experience,
Yeah,
right? That's not, you can't just take someone in a classroom.
you
Here's how
you
to be me, and
you
that's
can't do that.
like the essence of what I do. So I didn't want to do that. So the only way I could, there was no way for me to scale it. And the whole is scalable. The whole is scalable. It's sellable. It's not that I'm planning on selling it. I can repeat it and create another one. And it also
Yeah.
lights me up because I can still do LinkedIn training. We still do the
Mhm.
LinkedIn training call once a month where I do like a LinkedIn Q&A, but I can help more people and it take up less of my time, and I don't have to travel as much.
You're
Or if I am
scaling. You're
traveling, it's to do
scaling.
fun things. So
I love it.
it
And
was just, I had to just take the
that's
financial
growth.
hit for until the Halt has grown enough
But
that it's now replacing the LinkedIn training as well. But that's okay because I'm still making more than enough to survive on. Like I'm used to living a frugal life. So it's like, right,
it's all gravy.
it's all
It's all
very nice
gravy.
making all this money, but I wasn't happy anymore doing it. It was just
And
exhausting.
look at the time. And look at the time it's giving you with your son. I mean, you're a soccer
Yeah,
mom and you need
I
and that
know.
time you will never get back. We talked
Yeah,
about before we went on
exactly.
air how fast these kids are growing up, and you're
Mm,
never like I had this crazy revelation the other day. My daughter's turning 13. I'm like, I have 5 more years of her in the house. And that scared the shit out of me. I was like,
yeah,
5 more years. I'm like, she's I no, I don't want to see her grow up. I don't want that. But that is life, and that's
yeah.
that. So let's bring it home here. So what's next on the horizon for Leah Turner?
Probably need to book a holiday. I
Yeah,
haven't booked any holidays for this year
where
yet.
haven't you been?
Um,
I mean, where haven't you been? Where do you want to go?
loads of places.
Yeah.
I really want to go to do more of like Central and South America. I'd
I've not
really
been there.
like to go to the Philippines, but I need my
Hmm.
son to be a little bit more adventurous with his food before we go to the
That is a
Philippines.
tricky one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also want to go back to Africa. I'd like to take him on safari.
Oh
So
yeah.
that one's like, I think we probably will just do like a beach holiday as well this year, like a week by the beach,
Sometimes
just
those are
chilling.
just chill.
I need
Just
like a
feet in the
rest
sand.
holiday as well as an adventure holiday.
Right. There's two different. There's vacation and then there's trips. Right. You need to. A vacation is in the feet in the sand, chilling,
Yeah,
and then trips are adventures where you're gonna be
yeah.
up, mobile, seeing shit. You need
And
to mix it
sometimes
up.
we can do both. Sometimes we do
You can
both,
mix it
but I
up.
think, yeah, I don't know. I need to chat with him and see, like, come up with a
Well,
short list of options and see what he fancies.
I
In
love it.
terms of the business, I don't really know. I'm just keeping on with the Halt for the moment. I want to grow the Halt. I'd like to hit 700 members by the end of the year. But because
That's
I don't want to
doable.
race, like we only let 25 people in a month deliberately, even though there's over 1,000 on the waiting list, because we want to grow it sustainably and we
Right.
prioritize the experience of the existing members. So yeah,
What's
I just I want to have a year where I'm not pushing myself constantly. I
you
like
earned it?
a year where I'm not flying all over the place to speak at events, and I'm not saying yes to things I don't need to say yes to. And I'm doing things that are just focused on what's good for the community, what's good for me and my son, and what's good for my own.
Love it.
I'm turning 40 this year, and I think I just wanted to have a
No
year where I was
way.
like, I am not going to be.
You need a
I
me
just don't
year.
want to rush. I feel like
Imagine
I've just rushed through the last 5 years, and I want to have a year
take a
of not rushing.
break.
Yeah.
You earned it. Let's let's just quickly talk about the power. You are in a place right now where you
Mm.
could say no to things. Maybe not a couple years ago because you needed to make some freaking money and you had to make shit happen. There's so much power in the ability to say no to something, right? Isn't it like empowering? You're like, no, I
Oh,
don't have to do that, or I don't want to do that. I don't need to do it. I don't have to, and I don't want to. And you say it in a respectful way, and people respect that. And there's value that comes at a cost, but it's worth every penny.
I was having this exact conversation yesterday with one of the Holt members when we were at the co-working space in Manchester having like a meetup day. And she had somebody that kept emailing her every couple of months about working with her, but never actually followed through. And
Mm.
I said to her, you need to just set some boundaries and say to her, you're now at this point now, you're wasting my time. So please stop emailing. We're clearly not a fit. Off you go. And I was telling her about some occasions that I've said very strong no's and really set down. Like someone's just tried to push my prices too much. And I've said, you know what? You're disrespecting me. I don't want to work with you. And men receive that a lot worse than women. And
Oh yeah.
they're like, what? You're set, but I'm offering you these thousands of pounds. I'm like, yeah, but my price is actually twice that. And I was offering you a discount because you asked, you were going to book multiple services. And I just went, no. And they can't believe that you will walk away from multiple thousands of pounds. I'm like,
Are you really
I don't
saying
need
no
your
to
money
me?
because I'm going to say no to you, and
It's
somebody else is
bad
going to walk
money.
through the door tomorrow who's going to offer me my full fee, not going to argue with me, and I'm not going to feel disrespected. I don't want to work with someone who disrespects me. I
No,
never in a million years would have done that 5 years ago. Not a
no.
chance. I would have said
Yeah,
yes to anything that makes me money.
because you need
The
it.
fact that I walked away from LinkedIn training now, when it was making as much money as it was, it it makes me feel sick. Like the imposter in me, like the unconfident
Yeah,
person
you'll be all
makes
right
me
about
feel
it.
sick. But I go, but I don't need to be rich to be
But
happy
it's also
because
going
I
to
was
open up.
happy
But it's
before I
also
had money.
that's it right there. You know what happiness feels like, and you value happiness at such a level, and that literally
Yeah.
brings me. It literally brings me to my last couple of questions here, Leah. What's keeping you up at night these days?
What's what?
What is
Keeping me up
keeping
at
you
night?
up at night? What is
My
keeping you
cats
up at night in
usually.
your well, in your head, not on your head, in your head. Just like
um, well, I'm a natural busy brain, so like ADHD, my head's always whizzing about, but nothing particular. I don't stress. I'm not a stressed person. I have my little anxieties
good
here
on
and there,
you.
but I'm pretty laid back about most things in life. I don't have any drama going on in my life. There's no unfaithful man out there cheating on me. I think that's probably why I sleep well at night, because there isn't a man like making me
I have to think
anxious.
about that.
Like I
Oh
just
my
have the
god, I
perfect
love it.
little son who brings me coffee in the morning and cuddles, and a dog that
Well
sleeps on my
done.
bed with me. Like I wake up happy, I go to sleep happy. I always feel like I've been productive and helped people during the day. Like I feel like I'm making a positive impact on the world on a daily basis. Even the days where things go wrong, I'm like, yeah, but I had that conversation with someone and gave them that piece of advice and they were delighted by it. That for me helps me sleep at night.
I love
And
this
it,
for you. This is
yeah.
great. What a
I
great
feel like
6
I
years this
found
has
my
been.
purpose, like genuinely
Yes.
found my purpose,
Fuck
and
yes.
I'm living it every day. So
Let's bring it
cringe.
home
It's so
here.
cliche, isn't it?
No, it's not. This is going to make such a good LinkedIn post. I can't wait to clip this up. Here's the craziest thing, people. This is a little fun fact about podcasting here. Typically, I'm about 7 weeks ahead from recording a show to airing it. This is going to be the first time that this show is probably going to come out tomorrow because of the sequencing. I'm not going to bore people with the details here. The show literally coming out either today, like not today, it'll come out tomorrow or Saturday over the weekend. So this is as fresh as it gets. This conversation just
Whoa.
happened. You're listening to it. It just happened because we had to schedule some things, but and it fits in, and I'm excited about that because I haven't done that. I'd never done a quick turn podcast like this, and we're doing it, and I think it's going to be really exciting. And I want everyone, when they see these clips and they listen to it, I want everyone to follow up in the comments here, get involved in the conversation. I'm excited to meet a lot of folks in your tribe and vice versa here. Leah Turner, let's bring it home. I love that I've had this front row seat. I am fan club. Like if I had LT swag right here, I'd be rocking it, and you know that. And I deeply value our friendship, how much we've supported each other along the way, and this is what it's all about. Crossing ponds, yes, and we hung out in an old airplane at JFK Airport a couple
The
of years
most
back,
random
and
story.
oh, it was great. She had a layover, and I'm like, fuck it. I live 40 minutes away. I'm gonna hop on the train and come hang out and have a drink in an old airplane. But we had a great time. We had a good chat, and it was great to physically give you a nice hug and see you in person. And that's what it's all about, right? It's all about connections. It's all about forming real, genuine connections with people. And not
Mm.
everybody has to have a relationship like we do, right? Like you don't have to have that, but when you have it, it's incredible. So let's bring it home. 6 years later, lots has changed,
Mm.
but lots has stayed the same inside. And it's been incredible to watch you grow and be an incredible mom and watch your son grow up. And he looks at you, you know he's proud. And there's
Oh, he
nothing
tells me he's
stronger.
proud. Yeah, he
There's
tells
nothing
me.
stronger as a parent. And you reach a level of success. So I ask you right now, in February 2025, Leah Turner, how do you define success?
It's it's just finding peace. I think, like for me, like I'm still a busy person, but my mind is peaceful in terms of I'm not worried that I'm being I'm going to lose everything anymore. I'm not worried that I'm a bad mum. I'm not worried that I'm, my health is good. I'm happy because my success is, for me, success is finding that sweet spot. Like, what makes you money? What are you really good at? And what do you love doing? And if you can find all of those things and find something that does all of those things, and, life outside of business is also content, then you've got everything you need. I literally get to do something that I love every single day. It covers all of my bills with a little bit of extra, and I'm helping people, which for me is the thing that lights me up. And it also keeps my brain busy because there's always new things that I can add, new ways to improve things. So I'm constantly like motivated and inspired, and I'm constantly like challenged with new parts of it and new opportunities. So for me, I found the things that light me up and also give me a sense of purpose and fund the comfortable lifestyle that I've always probably never really imagined that I would ever have. So for me, I have absolutely ticked every box of success I could have ever hoped to. I don't think I would have had the audacity to hope for half of those things 5 or 6 years ago. So that for me is success. It's I'm good at all the things I need to be good at to be a good person and a good mum.
Courageous audacity, the audacity to live your life to the fullest, to do it right. And I am so happy for you that you found your calling and you did it and you make shit happen and you continue to make shit happen. And you continue to check in and make sure that you're still living your true authentic self and being the best mom you could be. Leah Turner, everybody. You can find out more. Check out the-holt.com. We're going to have that all linked up in the show notes here. Check out the whole community. Get in line, people. Get in line for that whole community. Check it out. I don't even want to know what the criteria is. Well, you guys can check it out online over there. Follow Leah on LinkedIn. Follow her on LinkedIn. Where else? Am I missing anything? You still doing Instagram, TikToks?
Yeah,
any of that stuff?
Got Leah Turner Holt for Instagram. And the podcast, everything's on. If you go to the Holt website, you'll find it all eventually. You just might have to.
We're going to link it all up. We're going to link up the podcast. We're going to link up the vault. We're going to link up the community. It's all going to be there. Leah Turner, thank you so much. Why did I put my music on? My closing music. Why did I not put my closing music on?
It's been so nice to get to chat with you and do this sort of like, should we do this in another 5 years?
Five, yeah. Jesus, imagine doing this in 5 years. I might be. I mean, the show is growing. We're doing it, and now it's on the road. Now it's a road show. Now we're a traveling circus. Literally, I hit the road. I got like 6 dates this year. We take the podcast, and they're Leah Turner. Everybody, please check her out. And everyone listening, if this show meant something to you, leave a review, rating. Sharing means caring. It goes a long way. You can find out more at thepodcast.com. Follow us on social media at NHP Talent, YouTube /the podcast. Remember, be good to yourself, be better to others, and catch us next week for another great episode of the podcast. Take care, everybody.
Wisdom is forever, but for us, it's time to go. Thank you for joining us. Luckily, we'll be back with our next episode soon, jam-packed with more incredible humans. Thank you for listening, subscribing, and sharing. To join the conversation, search The Podcast on LinkedIn. And to catch up on past episodes and more info, please visit www.thepodcast.com.